As of the end of the 2022 season, I have been a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles for 20 years. That's 2 decades, and to say it's been one of the most frustrating experiences of my life would be an absolute understatement. But I'm not going to go too far into the details, because the video would be too long otherwise. So let's start with where it all began, with Andy Reid. Believe it or not, my first taste of the Eagles was the 02-03 playoffs. We had home field advantage. We had a very beatable, warm weather, Florida-based Buccaneers team. You had them outside and it's freezing and you lose because McNabb turned the ball over 3 times. I mean, Simeon Rice is really good, but still. A lot of people agree that that was truly heartbreaking because we were a much better football team than they were. Yeah, they beat us our last game at the Vet. And the first game of the following season, they manhandle us in our new stadium. The next year, again with the number 1 seed, again the better team, again another NFC Championship collapse. In the 2004 season, we got T.O. He was on the cover of ESPN NFL 2K5. I used to play that game all the time. I rebought it many times. Every time I rebought a PS2, I have it right now. It definitely added to the insane hype. We went into the season, we started off 7-0, but we lost T.O. late in the season, but we were able to still rally without him in the playoffs. And we managed to get him back in time for the Super Bowl. We finally got to the Super Bowl. But unfortunately, McNabb's tendency to fold in big games reared its ugly head once again. Turned the ball over twice, which ultimately led to a third pick to seal our fate. And that was so crushing. And we should have paid T.O. what he wanted. I mean, I wasn't watching in 05. I mean, my stepfather was watching some of the reports about that, about the suspension and all that, and the money. They should have paid him. But after that, I was so disgusted. I ended up boycotting 3 consecutive seasons. And then summer of 08, I watched an episode of Family Guy where Peter Griffin played for the Patriots. That inspired me to create my own character. I had Madden 06. I got Madden 06. It inspired me to create my own character and have him play for the Eagles. And next thing you know, I got back into football. Unfortunately, by 08, I just found out that the Giants had won a Super Bowl against the team that beat us years ago. They're leading the division, and the Eagles were in last place. But we managed to rack up a few wins, get ourselves in the playoffs, and we beat the Giants. But when we got to the NFC Championship again, old deja vu. For most of that season, we were bailed out by Jim Johnson's defense led by Brian Dawkins, but it couldn't save us that time. And in 09, if you thought it was going to get better after this, it doesn't. In 09, Jim Johnson dies, we let Brian Dawkins walk, and in the 09 season, we lose to Dallas, we lose to the Cowboys, not once, not twice, but 3 times. That turned out to be McNabb's swan song. We ended up exiling him to Washington. The 2010 season, I mean, we had Michael Vick. We started Kevin Cobb, and he got a little bit of ridiculous hype. I mean, they showed his family, they showed a jersey, they talked about the jersey in Texas. Why? And he didn't end up working out. I mean, what else would you expect from a Houston Cougars QB? But Michael Vick comes in there, it looked like we were on our way. No joke. During that whole game, during that season, I literally thought we looked like Super Bowl contenders. Especially after the Washington game. And especially after the Colts game, I literally thought we were going to the Super Bowl. Next thing you know, team falls apart. I mean, we had that comeback win against the Giants, but we wouldn't win another game for the rest of the year. And in years prior, our offense was so stagnant, and a lot of times we had to rely on David Akers to win games for us. In the wild card game against the Packers, it was at this pivotal moment where he could no longer kick a football. And then 2011, the Dream Team. Nnamdi, the biggest free agency bust of all time, in my opinion. He ended up practically making Victor Cruz's career. And that dream turned out to be a nightmare as the Giants once again succeeded where we have failed. In 2012, I don't even, do I need to say anything? They were pathetic. And that ended up being Reid's last season. He was finally let go after 14 years of nothing. We bring in Chip Kelly, which I was not a fan of. I wanted 𝔡'𝔑𝔞𝔯𝔦 at the time. He brought a new up-tempo, fast-paced, no-huddle offense. And it actually worked with the team we already had. And Nick Foles had a magical Nick Foles has a magical season, 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but with that horrendous defense, it could only take us so far, so we went one and done. Nick Foles ends up being a winner once again. He was more of a turnover machine the following year, but he was still winning games. We went 6-0 before he broke his clavicle, and we had to start Mark Sanchez. And we ended up going from 9-3 to 9 and done. And then in 2015, we decided it was a good idea to give Chip Kelly, who's only been 2 years in the NFL overall, total control. And what does he do? Let's go of guys that made his offense good in the first place. I mean, first he released Deshaun Jackson the year prior, and he decides to trade McCoy, and you're trading Nick Foles? Oh my God. I mean, we added DeMarco Murray and Byron Maxwell, but that had Dream Team 2.0 written all over it. And that, unsurprisingly, did not work out. And Chip was fired before the season ended. 2 frustrating experiences so far. Then came Carson Wentz. Where do we even begin with Carson Wentz? Carson quits, gingivitis, Woogie, however you wish to refer to him. We ordered everything in the kitchen sink from the Browns to move up to grab him. He has an outstanding sophomore season, only to completely fuck up his career by obliterating his knee. After that, there's this weird love triangle between him, Howie, and Doug. We'll never know the full details of that situation, but what we do know is Carson Wentz was constantly ordered to start games, despite being a shell of what he once was, and he turns into one of the most hated men in town. A lot of that had to do with the fact that, yeah, we finally won our first Super Bowl, but we won without him, and that we had sacrificed so much for him and got very little in return, and the near invulnerability given to him by the coaching staff and executive branches. It must have been very difficult for him when Jalen Hurts stopped sucking and became a good QB. Which leads us to the next chapter. It's still up in the air. How Jalen's career will be, well, that remains to be seen. So far, he's been injured at least once his first 2 years as a starter. He already has 1 failed Super Bowl attempt, including a costly turnover, which was most likely the difference between a 10-point lead and a 20-point lead. You know, I haven't forgotten the fact that back in 2018, when we won our first Super Bowl, we were told with a straight face, get used to seeing this. Guess how many times we've seen it since? Want to take a guess there? Yup, big 0. I'm tired of the constant teasing. I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of nothing going my way. I'm tired of getting my hopes up. I'm tired of them never doing what I want. I'm tired of this shit. And I need change now. I'm tired.